Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Christine Westerlin here in snowy Springfield, Illinois.
Woohoo!
Haley Wilson is here with us today. She's going to give us some information on the families of distinction, but really dive into what storytelling is and why it's so important to this work that we do, particularly when we're trying to tell our story about our families. In today's webinar, as usual, it is being recorded. It will be made available to all registrants at the conclusion of the webinar. Should you have any questions during the webinar, you should have a dashboard box that will allow you to type in a question. I'll be keeping an eye on that as we proceed through this webinar this morning. But once again, you are all silenced. And Haley, I am going to turn it over to you after we say the promise of community action. So if we can say this together, I know this sounds like we're speaking in disembodied voices, but we are not. So let's recite this promise of community action. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. All right, Haley, I turn it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Like Christine said, it is snowy today. I hope everybody bobsledded into work okay. We are going to get started with discussing families of distinction and more specifically storytelling basics and how to tell a good story for your families of distinction. So first, real quick, we'll go over an overview. During this presentation, participants will learn more about the Families of Distinction program. You will connect the importance of storytelling to your own work and apply the elements of a good narrative to create stories with your families, and receive tools to help participants create an awesome story. And of course, our presenters today are Christine Westerlin, Director of Professional Development, and myself, Haley Wilson, Membership Services Manager. So what is Families of Distinction? So if you have never participated before or have never participated with your family, every year IACAA's member agencies select a family to be honored at the IACAA annual conference for overcoming great personal and social obstacles in pursuit of their self-sufficiency. So for this program, we're really focusing on the purpose of community action, helping people help themselves. And the Families of Distinction program illustrates how Illinois Community Action empowers families to identify and utilize their personal strengths to enrich their lives. So each family will be honored with a dinner, awards, entertainment. The program features stories on each family, and a short documentary is shown at the event that features 6 families that mirror the reporting domains that we have to follow. Each family is presented with an award recognizing their accomplishments. And so that leads us into the Families of Distinction narrative. So each agency is tasked with selecting a family along with submitting a narrative and a photo of the family or individual. And I want to emphasize the importance of the photo as well. I know it's already a task to write the narrative, and sometimes it's hard to get a photo of the family, but it really is important for us to get a photo of the family, especially if they're selected as one of the 6 families for the video. It just puts a face to the story. Human beings are visual before they are verbal, so they like to see pictures. So if you can provide us with a high resolution picture of the family or individual, that's always helpful. So the selection criteria that we provide, which we do provide these forms to everyone every year, so you do get all this information. Don't think you have to jot all this down. But the family or individual must embody many of the characteristics of stability, including employment, which includes a living wage job, promotions, benefits. I want to put emphasis on living wage job. I know that sometimes they got a job, maybe at.
Hang on, Haley. We're not seeing any slides, huh? All right. Let's see if we can't fix that. Oh, no one can see our screen. That's
Uh-oh.
why, even though I clicked on it, I hope that has fixed it for everybody. I apologize for that. We're just going to kind of go back, Haley, just to the first screen,
Sure.
just to kind of where we started off here, just to have everybody kind of take a look at that. And Haley, I'll just come back to this screen and pick up where you left off.
Okay. Hopefully everybody can see us now. Okay.
Yep, it looks like Carol Tracy says yes. So
Okay,
Carol,
good.
we'll take your word for it.
Good. Okay. So just hopefully you can see the selection criteria, and I'll start back at employment, living wage job, promotions, benefits, working at a job that is actually helpful for them, not just they're making minimum wage, working at a fast food restaurant. A living wage job is preferable. Education and cognitive development, a degree, GED, certifications leading to employment, all of those are important. Income and asset building, savings, increase in wages, bank accounts, checking accounts, are they saving money? Housing of choice in a safe community, which is self-defined. So, some areas may seem like not ideal for some people, but a safe community is self-defined by that individual or family. So wherever they feel comfortable living is their housing of choice in a safe community. Health and social / behavioral development. Now, this is something that we have stumbled on in the past just because some caseworkers or family development specialists feel a little uncomfortable in this department discussing their clients' healthcare or significant health or mental issues. So this is if they give this information voluntarily. So if they don't worry about it, don't press it. But it is good to include this in the narrative because it's something good to overcome and to show other people that you have overcome a physical or mental ailment. Civic engagement and community involvement. Are you a registered voter, active in the community, a volunteer? As Christine would like you to have a library card. It's very important to have a library card. And ideally, a candidate, family, or individual must meet 3 out of 6 of these areas of stability to be considered as a family of distinction.
And Haley, if I can, just to kind of talk a little bit more about this. So these 6 domain areas are from the CSBG annual report. These are the ones that have been identified, when we're kind of transitioning into reporting on the, using the organizational standards. And Haley's absolutely right that we need to have, using housing as the best example on this list, that we have to ensure that the families that we work with are completely comfortable where they're at. It's their level of comfort that we want them to express to us rather than us making that determination. And the other key piece of this too is that the word ideally is used. So we like to see a candidate or individual meet 3 of those 6 areas of stability, but again, this is where you as the family worker really has to tend to what those family achievements are. So that is not a hard and fast rule, but it is the ideal rule. So just to kind of bring a little bit of clarity to that.
Thank you, Christine. All right. So a little bit more on the actual narrative. While all FOD families will be acknowledged at the FOD event, 6 specific families will be selected to represent the following areas of achievement: the Workforce Award, Achievement in Education, Financial Success, Housing Stability, Wellness Award, and Community Engagement. So what is storytelling and why is this important to our Families of Distinction narrative? The basic definition of storytelling is a series of facts told with emotions and details. So a lot of times we'll get narratives that really grasp the fact part of this definition. So they got LIHEAP, they got Head Start, they ended up doing great, the end. And we really need a lot more information than that, a lot more emotions, a lot more details. Because without that, it becomes a little bit like a timeline. So you're just telling us where they started, where they ended, the end. But it's really important to share those descriptive details about the family, especially if they're featured in the video and honored as one of the 6 families, because we want to know more about them. And I will also say too that I'm the one who goes around and does the videos for FOD, and it's really good to have that information when discussing with those families so that they feel more comfortable as well. Why is storytelling so important? Simply put, storytelling connects us to our core brand promise, helping people, changing lives, then helps us share our brand promise through descriptive and emotional storytelling. What to consider when developing your agency's narrative. So I think it's very important. This is a big piece to be relatable. When you go to discuss the narrative with your family or talk to them about the services that were offered, don't call it an interview. Individuals can see this as being interrogated and might experience a little bit of stage fright. So if you just say something along the lines of, can you come in so that we have a chat, or can I call you so that we can chat about the award, make them feel as if we are celebrating them and not interviewing them. And also connect with your client. I know a lot of you guys already do this as family development specialists. You guys talk with your client on a regular basis, but just make sure you really have that connection when you're discussing this with them. Convey emotion in your narrative and not just facts. We just talked about this. The main focus of your story should be to help your audience relate to what the family is feeling so that they can better understand the programs offered by your agency. Describe the obstacles that they went through, not to. To make the story compelling, your family's obstacles should tie back to your agency's mission. So this is a really big deal. You want to really display what your agency has done without saying, our agency did this, gave them LIHEAP, gave them Head Start, the end. So describe the solution as well. When the families were provided these services, what was the solution? How did they overcome that? Connecting the importance of storytelling to your own work is very important, which can also be important when it comes to fundraising, talking to your funders. So storytelling isn't just for families of distinction. You could connect it to your own work as well. But storytelling allows you to paint a picture to the reader on how the family has overcome adversity and become self-sufficient. Connecting a narrative moment pulls the audience in to see the humanity of your agency. It puts a face on the work of your agency. And readers have different ways of understanding stories. So descriptive firsthand accounts really compel listeners to want to read your story and want to learn more about your family. Storytellers have potential to engage people in meaningful discussions. So these stories can go much further than just the FOD program. You can use the video when you're trying to promote your agency, when you're trying to get funders, more grants. All this information is really important when it comes to storytelling. Give an explanation and purpose to your family. So opening up about personal struggles can be difficult for families. Explain the purpose of this narrative is to honor their achievements. And be as descriptive as possible. I know this sounds really easy, but I always go with the basics, the who, what, when, where, and why. How did you meet the family? What obstacles has the family overcome? What steps and programs did the family take to overcome these obstacles? Why are these steps the best steps for the family to take? How long did it take your family to overcome these obstacles? Are all easy ways to kind of be more descriptive in your narrative. And remember, while the narrative should put a face to the great work of your agency, the narrative should primarily focus on the family. So we want you to toot your own horn about your agency and all the great things that you have done. We want to make sure that we focus on the family as well. And with that, I will pass it on to Christine.
Well, thanks, Haley. Thanks, Haley. I really appreciate hearing more about story because of its great importance in the work that we do throughout community action. And as you know, it wouldn't be a webinar with me if I didn't have an opportunity to talk about Roma. Am I right, Haley? Got to talk about Roma. So, from the perspective of storytelling, it really is a form of qualitative information, which is a key piece to, diving into our story. We certainly want to deal with numbers, and that is undeniable, but we also have to really flesh out this story. We have to really put a face on it, as Haley has said, and to make it relatable so we can understand it and really promote not only the success of the family, but also to promote the work of the agency. The collection of these stories, and I'm looking more of the story not as the individual story, but as the larger story. That the collection of these stories is really a wonderful way that we can acquire not only additional data to learn and assess not only needs but strengths, opportunities, but telling us those results. How is it that we were able to really lift these individuals to stability, hopefully self-sufficiency, and a lot of it was based on their strengths. It's because we connect through story. I think that storytelling traditions go back for thousands of years, and if we begin not telling our story, and I think in a deep, meaningful way, then we really, I think, are doing a bit of a disservice not only to our network, but really to our families, because we want to honor their success. We want to honor the work that it took to get them to their level of success. Mm-hmm. And finally, stories really do explore results. I don't know about you, but I love the end of the story. And it doesn't matter what that end is, but I want to get there. And that's the result. And so we need to have a kind of a focus on that as well. So again, this is kind of that strong connection to Roma. And I can probably make almost anything fit into Roma, but storytelling is really a beautiful component. Another piece of this too is all of you are, most of you on this call, have worked with families. Many of you are family and community development specialists. And so this is kind of an opportunity to really lean into those skills that you gained as an FCD. Haley already covered a great list at her, was it the who, what, why, and how?
Who, what, when, where.
Thank you. I knew I would get it out of order. But those are asking open-ended questions, and that's a key piece. I think a lot of times when we begin that, as Haley said, we avoid that word interview. We kind of begin with yes and no questions, and to really open it up to asking open-ended questions, which probably can become powerful questions, to really allow for deeper inquiry into, tell me more about that, be willing, to also kind of be invitational in that conversation that you're having with your family. A key piece of this too is to create a welcoming, safe place. We're learning more and more, certainly from thinking about family coaching, that it is important that we consider what our environment looks like when we invite someone else into it, if we're going to do what we coldly sometimes refer to as an intake with that family. So think about your space. I'm looking at my space right now and I'm thinking, wow, it looks like I need to clean it up, but we really need to think about it as a welcoming, safe space, a safe environment. The other key piece of this too, and we talk about this quite a bit in most trainings, is the willingness to be quiet and listen in, because if these questions come from the frame of open-ended, then that actually may open up, the family that you're working with. They may want to, even when you're quiet, if you don't immediately fill that space, that gives them an opportunity to think and really say, okay, let me kind of answer this a little bit more fully. And that really is that deep thinking. That is that exploration of that question that you've asked. And always, I think, again, going back to Haley's example of housing, always wear your strength-based lens. I think that is kind of a critical piece for us to keep in mind as we do this work with our families. And again, we really, want to subscribe to that idea of helping people, changing lives.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't mind if I add to that as well,
Please.
Especially when it comes to willing to be quiet and listen in. When I go and do these videos with our videographer, Brian Crouch, and he's really good, When we go talk to these families, he always tells me right before we go in, because I like to talk a lot. I'm a talker. I have facial expressions, all kinds of things. And he will tell me, when you're asking them questions, just be quiet after that and let them answer, even if they pause for a second. Just let them talk and listen, because sometimes when you interject or you have comments that you make, it causes them to kind of shut down and just let you talk. So being quiet and listening really is very important, and just listening to their story.
I appreciate that, Haley. Absolutely. I admit too, I'm a big talker myself, and so I have to remind myself of just be quiet, just listen. So I don't see any questions at this moment. I'll be quiet. Haley will be quiet for just a couple of seconds, and then we'll see if anything comes forward. All right. So this actually is the final webinar for 2018. So we get to have Haley as our final speaker for 2018.
Woohoo!
And it will restart in January of 2019. We are putting together, I think, a pretty exciting calendar of webinars for all of you. Obviously, stay there. We have some new speakers lined up. We have some engaging topics. I think we're really digging further into the needs of what you want to all learn about. A question has popped up. When is the nomination due? Haley, do we have any timelines on that yet?
We are actually going to be sending out the information probably next month to everyone, and then we would like to have nominations due in February. We don't have a date yet. Usually towards the end of February is when we lean to, but it won't be until February.
Okay, great question, Heidi. Thanks. So I'm going to circle back to the webinar series. If you have any suggestions, if you want to be a featured speaker, we really want to lean on the expertise in our network. We've had a couple, we featured some folks this year, and we want to do that again next year. So if you want to raise your hand proudly and step forward, there will be an IACAA t-shirt in it for you, don't you think, or something?
Oh, yeah. IACAA t-shirt.
IACAA t-shirt.
A koozie.
Right. Yeah, we can hook you up. So thank you, everybody, for attending. We really appreciate your patience with us and your willingness to participate on a snowy day here. I think it's snowing all over Illinois, and we want you to be safe.
Yes.
And to keep warm and to be well. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.